Welcome back, everyone. I trust you had a nice, tasty little healthy lunch. I did. I had chicken and avocado and tomato and a glass of lemon water. Am I a healthy dude or what? Now we're into the afternoon, the fourth quarter of our two-day webinar. And this afternoon we'll have David Fisher, Lucas Mattiello, and Marlon Dahl. So let's kick off with David. David is an actor, award-winning speaker, and speaking coach. He focuses on delivering making impactful deliveries and expert presentation skill development. He is the founder of Kingfisher Communications, and as such, he believes that by connecting with ourselves and each other in real ways, real authentic ways, we can create a kinder and more connected world. David, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Good. So a little housekeeping item before I let you go. Tell us how you would like us to deal with questions. Do you want, we post them in the Q&A box, but then do you want to answer them as you go, or would you rather batch them and address them all towards the end of your hour?
Let's batch them at the end.
Batch them and keep them in the end. Okay. Attendees, please remember, do not post your questions in the chat. Post your questions in the Q&A. Thank you. Now, David, my next question of you is, why is what you're about to teach us really important for speakers who want to have huge impact, huge reach, huge influence?
That's a great question, Roger. And I would ask a rhetorical question to everybody who's online right now, which is, if I came up to you and said, tell me your top 3 memories of your life, I guarantee you that the top 3 or even the top 3,000 have an emotional connection to it. If I were to ask you all, tell me your favorite movie, song, speech, same answer. There's an emotional connection to that. And so in order to present a powerful presentation on stage, we need to connect emotionally with the audience. We can have fantastic information, but if it's just rote information, we can just put that in a blog. In order for us to create that intimate connection with an audience, we need to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And that, I would say and argue, that actually makes us more powerful on stage. And having that power on stage and making that emotional connection actually spurs people to action.
Okay, well, that's okay. Excellent answer. Now, what I've introduced you, but from the horse's mouth, that's your mouth. Describe for us what are your credentials to be giving us this this information on powerful on-stage performances?
Good. That's a great question. Let me talk a little bit about myself. Everybody's favorite subject is talking about themselves. So I've been doing this off and on for at least a couple decades. I have a degree in speech communications with honors. I was one class shy of having a double major in theater. While getting my degree, I was at university getting my degree, but I was also teaching speech communications at an art school. They had hired me to teach there. And between acting and public speaking, I've been on stage thousands of times, about half and half between speaking as well as acting. I've worked with businesses like Plenty of Fish, the employees, not the daters, WeWork and the Better Business Bureau. And I've also done workshops for organizations like Create Change Now, Working Gear, and Leaders of Tomorrow. I coach individual clients, and I've been an award-winning speaker at Toastmasters, among other organizations, and I've been a president and a mentor at Toastmasters, as well as I've been running this business for close to 3 years now.
Okay, well, that's a pretty impressive set of credentials. Why don't you launch into about 30 minutes of basic training?
Sure, absolutely. And I'm assuming you guys can all see the screen here. But
yep, we
one of the okay, great. It's my first time. I'm a first-time Zoom user, so this is great. I would say, and I'm going to cover 3 points briefly over the next 30 minutes or so. And it's the 3 categories are internalization, preparation, and inspiration. And I don't have a slide to cover that title, so I'll say it again: internalization, preparation, and inspiration. And I would argue that internalization, which I will explain what that is, plus preparation equals inspiration. So again, internalization plus preparation equals inspiration. Now, here's what I mean by internalization. An inspiring speech, it doesn't start in the brain, it starts in the heart. And I would venture to guess that most of you out there who are listening to this, you've got something in your heart that you want to share with the world. It's a lot of work, there's some stress involved, and so doing all of this, it can't just be something in your head that you come up with and go, well, that's a good idea, I think I'll share this. It's got to be something that's keeping you excited at night, it wakes you up in the morning. And many times what happens is we find something that emotionally drives us, and we start to come up with this idea of a speech. And we have this passionate message that we want to share with the world. But then as we begin to organize and edit, and we listen, and other people coach us and they come up with ideas, and we're trying to take things out because this story doesn't fit with our main point, and we get it into our head, and we get so much into our head, we kind of forget the heart that started it all. And when we go on stage, we might have these beautiful words that would fit in an article or a blog, but we kind of give this speech that's a little dry because we've lost the connection with ourselves and with our heart. And I've heard more often than not, some of the biggest pushback I get from clients or from people that say, well, I don't want to over memorize it, because if I over memorize it, then it sounds stale. Well, this is where the internalization comes in. We don't want to just memorize it. We need to internalize our speech. We need to know it like we've been riding a bike or driving a car for years. You guys remember when you first got on a bike and you finally get to the point where you don't have to have somebody hold you up, or you finally get to a point where you're driving alone, if you guys remember those moments, and all of your brain power is focused on the road ahead. So if somebody says, hey, look at the bird, you're like, I can't look at the bird. And so what we want to do is get to the point with that speech that you can look at the bird, you can swerve around the potholes, you can enjoy the drive or the ride, because the speech is just a part of you. And so we have to get through the valley of death in order to prepare, or in order to internalize our speech. And this is the first step to get to inspiring, to get to giving a powerful performance. And if all of you can see the little house that's on the far left of your screen, that's when you've had the speech. You're pretty familiar with it. You can kind of wing it. It's not memorized, but you've got the points down, and you could give a decent speech. You can share your message and people go, oh, that was nice. That was pretty good. And a lot of people stop there. And if you got a phone call tonight and said, I need you to give a speech at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning at this organization, can you do it? And you put it together that night, that's a good place to be. Get familiar with it so you can come in the next day and deliver a message. But if your message is going to the world, and your message is going to thousands of people in an audience, and your message is going online to potentially millions of people, you've got to get through the valley of death. So you're climbing up this mountain on the left-hand side of the mountain there, and you have to get past familiar, and you've got to go up this steep hill. And here's what happens with most people, is that you get to the peak and you go, ha, I haven't memorized the speech. It's great, I'm ready to go. Well, you memorized it and you were sitting in your living room couch, and now you're expected to deliver it the next day. But the next day you show up, and there's 2,000 people sitting in an audience. There's lights on you. There's heat. There's somebody who looks like they're taking a nap in the third row. There's somebody in the back that's coughing. And there's other distractions that are happening. And your brain now has to take in all of this new information. And suddenly you're just trying to get through the speech, one word to the next word. And your brain, just like riding the bike or driving that car, and somebody says, look at the bird, and you go, I can't. The only thing you're thinking about is the next word that comes out of your mouth. And now it's very difficult for you to interact with the audience, to touch the audience, to reach the audience, to go off Memorization, if you have to go into, oh, I don't want to share this story. I want to share that story because it looks like this audience is a little bit younger than I thought. So I'm going to share the story about when I was younger. You can actually, it's easier to improvise if you can get through the memorization and into internalization. That means you're getting through the valley of death. If you go on stage and you have the deer in the headlights look, that's the valley of death. That's where all the arrows are coming down and you're falling into that valley. And so to get to the bridge to internalization, you're going to have to, as soon as you say, I have my speech memorized, you're going to want to go through that another 50 to 100 times. And I strongly, bluntly encourage all of my clients to go through that speech 100 times. Now, there's a caveat to that, which means that you don't have to necessarily stand in your living room, pretend there's a stage out your window, and practice that speech intensely for 100 times. You absolutely want to do that. And it's up to you on how much you want to do that. I would say about half the time you're going to want to do that. But the other half of the time, you can be walking your dog, you can be doing the dishes, you could be riding your bike or driving the car. And then you could just say, I'm going to go through my speech right now. And you just go through it. And if you're washing the dishes and you're kind of annoyed that you have to wash the dishes because they got backed up, true story from me, you can give your speech like you're annoyed. Sound like you're annoyed. We know you're not going to be annoyed when you go on stage, but what it does is it allows the creativity of your brain to come through. Allow yourself to give that speech and how you feel at that moment. When you're really practicing and focusing, you're going to want to be able to go in and be in that moment. But the rest of the day, when you're on break at work or whatever it might be, and you just want to go through your speech and kind of mumble to yourself as you maybe take a walk around the block, totally okay to do that, because it allows your brain to maybe come up with new ideas that you hadn't thought of because you're not doing it the exact same way every single time. So that brings me to my second point, which is preparation. You've internalized it. You've practiced it. When you've intensely practiced it, you've gone through your stage mapping, or what I call blocking. Where are you going to move to the stage right? Where are you going to move stage left? How big a stage am I going to have? How much room do I have? In this story, where am I going to go? Maybe I want to lean in and whisper this story like it's a secret. Oh, I don't know if that works. Let me yell it. And because I'm really excited. You're going through all of that through those 50 to 100 times. But now what's going to happen? Well, the first thing you have to remember is that you own the stage, but you serve the audience. So you have to think about the audience. So let's say this is the day of your speech. What tools can you do that day? And what tools have you done in preparation for that day in order for you to be powerful on stage? And it's beyond internalization at this point. And so one of the things that you want to think about is, what are you going to do that day? You want to make the day as normal as possible. Eat right. If you work out, do a light workout. Don't kill yourself. If you don't work out, that's not in your habit right now, go for a walk. Do something to kind of get the blood pumping a little bit. Eat healthy, like Roger did earlier for lunch. Find time for yourself and relax, but don't really think about your speech a whole lot. What you want to focus on is the audience. Who are you going to serve? You've already done the work for the speech. You're going to know it. Think about the audience. Think about that person in the third row. Think about your family. Think about your friends. Think about the lives that you're going to touch. Think about the outcome. Think about that story. And I'm going to go off screen here for just a second and come back to video. There we are. There I am. Okay. Everybody can see me. So there's a story that we all tell ourselves before we speak. And you can either say, oh my gosh, I'm so scared, or you can say, I'm so excited. The day of that speech, you're going to be like this seltzer bottle. You're going to be all a whole bunch of power that's in here for you. And you're going to think, I'm so scared, I'm so scared, I'm so scared, I'm so scared. And then you start shaking this bottle and shaking this bottle. Now what's going to happen when you go on stage, when you've told yourself a story that is scary? You can already see kind of the fizz already starting to fizz up on this bottle. One of two things is going to happen. You're either going to keep this on tight which means that you're going to be all bundled up, and then you're not going to be really engaged with the audience. You're just going to try and get through word for word of what this speech is going to be. Or the cap's going to come off. You're going to go everywhere. You're going to say a joke that's not really funny. You're going to say something off color you didn't really mean. You're going to lose track. You're going to have happy feet. You're going to dance around the stage. But if you tell yourself a story that says, I'm excited, and here's why I'm excited to do this, this doesn't get shaken, and then you can just enjoy it. And I would open it and take a drink, but I'll just give it to my daughter later. She'll never know. And let me go back to the screen share here really quick. And there's a couple other tools that I'll touch on here that we can do while we're preparing for that powerful stage performance. And one of those is that story. Are you telling yourself a story of fear, or are you telling yourself a story of excitement? But there's some other practical things that you can do as well. We feel tension usually in our breath and in our shoulders and in our neck. So you want to make sure that those are stretched out. In fact, I probably actually came onto this too soon. So let me go back to stop sharing and come back to me again. Is that we can roll our neck, and we can roll our shoulders. We can actually do tongue twisters to make sure that our mouth is warmed up. Now, when I'm practicing for a speech, and I have those moments when I'm not walking my dog, but I'm in the living room and I'm really saying, okay, I'm gonna, for the next hour, I'm really gonna work on this. What I do is I will go through the same routine. I'll roll my neck, I'll roll my shoulders, I'll stretch out, I'll kind of warm up, I'll get the blood flowing a little bit. I'll take some deep breaths, I'll do some tongue twisters. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, unique New York, rubber baby buggy bumpers, like these types of things to warm up my mouth, and then I can give my speech. Just like if you work out or if you exercise and you stretch that muscle farther than what you normally would do in your day-to-day, it allows you to be more flexible so that that day-to-day movement becomes easier. And same thing with our mouth. If we do tongue twisters a few times a week, every morning when we get up or before we're practicing our speech, we practice using these muscles so that when we give our speech, it's easier for us to enunciate our words. I hope that makes sense to everybody. And now I'm going to go back to using technology and talking at the same time. It's crazy. Okay. All right, so now we've done the internalization. We've gone through it 50 to 100 times after we've memorized our speech. We've also done our preparation. We've warmed up our body, we've warmed up our mouth, we're eating right, we're exercising, we're doing those types of things. We're doing, we're practicing putting our shoulders back. If you walk through a door, put stickies on all your door frames. And then when you walk through a door, remember, roll your shoulders back, lift your chin up, even just throughout the day. And then that way you'll start to work on a posture that has this powerful posture, this confident posture. That way you don't have to just turn it on when you're on stage. You've actually been practicing this even as you're just going through your day-to-day at work. And the sticky note, like an orange sticky note or something in a door frame, you'll see that and go, oh yeah, posture, bring my shoulders back, bring my chin up. If you do that as part of a habit, then when you walk on stage, that's naturally going to happen for you. Now, as I mentioned before, we serve the audience. So this is where the inspiration comes in. And one of the main things that we want to focus on when we go on stage is we occupy our space. We need to have that confidence. Our mouths are warmed up, our bodies are warmed up. And now what we're doing is our focus is not on ourselves. It's not on the lights. It's not on where we're moving on stage, because we've already done all that. We've already internalized all that. Now you can solely focus on the audience and who the audience is and who you want to serve. What is your message? And the better the audience is served, the better the world becomes. And so that internalization plus preparation can bring you inspiration. And hopefully a couple of those tools will really help you out. But that's a high level. And in my workshop, which I'll talk about in a little bit, But in my workshop, we'll actually carve out space to do these things, and I'll work with you one-on-one or in a group to be able to practice these things, and then you can take those tools with you as you go for your next speech, but also any speeches that you're doing in the future as well. And I will. Who is? Let me turn off the share here again really quick. There we go. Okay, great. Okay, so good. So Roger, that's kind of what I have for lesson and what people can kind of take with them as they're moving forward.
Okay. So I'm echoing. I can hear my echo on you.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we're all good now. So there are no questions, and there is no chat. Okay. So the title of this hour is How to Deliver a Powerful Onstage Performance.
Yeah.
Rationalize that with the use of the word acting.
Sorry, what was the word there?
What is the difference between onstage performance and acting?
That's actually a really good point. And there's really what I'm doing is using the acting skills that I've learned. I'm glad you asked that. And if I ask you, all of you who are listening, how many of you have seen a live theater performance, or you know Broadway shows, and an actor who has won Emmys or Tonys? They are doing 8 shows a week. They practice the show 100 times before it even opens up before a live audience. And they've worked on their character, they've memorized their lines, they're working with other actors, and yet that show can run for years. And you could see that show and it's 3 years on Broadway, and you leave and you think, oh my gosh, I was touched by that show. And this is where the internalization becomes important, because one of the things that can happen, and as you guys give speeches, as we all give speeches, those speeches can be given again and again and again. And so sometimes when you think, oh my gosh, I'm afraid I might over memorize, I might have too much. It might sound rote, or it might sound dry, or it might sound boring. But if you get to that point where you can enter yourself into that point where you can reach the audience emotionally every single time, just like an actor can reach that point emotionally every single time when they're playing a particular character. Now, it may look a little bit different. If you see an actor perform Tuesday night, and then you see the same show on Wednesday night, you can be emotionally moved and inspired both nights, but you may see a slightly different performance by that actor, because the actor is responding to the other actors on stage. They're responding to the environment around them, but they're in that moment, they're in that thin place where they're emotionally vulnerable to what's happening. So maybe on one night they yell, and on the next night they cry, but they're still being moved by what's inside of them. As speakers, we do the same thing, but we don't have other actors on stage. We're actually with the audience. Good actors aren't acting. They're not putting up a front. They're not preparing to act. What they're doing is they're getting in tune with themselves, and they're getting in tune with their character, and they're getting in tune with the moment that they're in as they go moment by moment on stage and in that play. And as speakers, we do the same thing. We prepare ourselves to be emotionally vulnerable. We know our work. We've internalized it. And now who we're responding with is the audience. And as we go moment by moment through the audience, we can be responsive to that. So our attention now is not on the other actor like an actor would be. Our attention then would be on the audience. But it is a very similar approach, because if you see the audience responding one way, you can feed off of that and continue in that moment because you know your material so well, because you've internalized it, not just memorized it. There's been not only plays, but also speeches that I've given, and some of you may have experienced this, where you've gone through it, you've practiced it, and you feel good, and then you're sharing kind of this vulnerable story, and then you get on stage and you get choked up. And it never happened when you were practicing it. You kind of feel maybe a little bit of emotion inside of you, but you never felt that, oh my gosh, I think I might cry here. And you have to kind of catch yourself to get through that speech. It's because you've internalized it, and now you're in an environment where people are responding to that, and suddenly you say something that never struck you before, and then you go, oh wow, that's a little more intense than I thought it was. You'll never get to that point if you don't internalize it. And if you don't do it 50 to 100 times, you might get to that point and then not know how to work through it. But if you've done it enough, then you know how you can get through that, respond to the audience, and keep going. So the approach is exactly the same, because in acting, what we learn in acting is how to be ourselves. And how to respond is just we're using another writer. We're becoming ourselves in a situation, and it's coming through a character that was written by another writer. When we're giving a speech, in most cases, you're the writer and you're the character, but the process of learning that is just the same. And if you know your speech so well that you don't know what the next line of your speech is until you get there, you're at that point. So if somebody says, hey, give me 0.4 in your speech, and you go, hold on, and you got to kind of backtrack a little bit and then feed yourself into that, you're in a pretty good place, because now you're emotionally connecting each sentence to each other, and that's what's going to help you get through it. And then if something happens and somebody coughs, you get sidetracked, or you lose your train of thought, you know it well enough that I know I'm going from A to Z, and I kind of got lost in M, but I still know that I have to get to Z, and I know the path to get there. And then you can actually get yourself there, which has happened to me on stage in speaking and acting, where you forget that one line, but you go, oh, that's okay, I know where I'm going. And you don't have that deer in the headlights look, because you can interact with the audience, because you still have that message to share. But you have to get through that valley of death first, and that's part of where that power comes in, because then you're so confident, then you know that you can deliver. Does that make sense? Does that help answer that question?
Yeah, it does. So I'm going to ask you to drill down into that a little bit. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm standing in the wings at the Vancouver Convention Center. I'm next on. I'm a content expert. I'm not a trained actor. What is in my mindset? I remembered that you said I have to get into character, but what's the difference between the character I have to get into and my authentic self?
In this case, as a speaker, there isn't one. You're just becoming in touch with yourself. And so when you're in the wings and you're ready to go on, provided you've done the work ahead of time.
That's understood.
Yeah, right. And so what happens then is your focus. And at times before I've gone on stage, whether it's a speech or acting, I've sort of said the first line in my head. Okay, where am I at? Okay, here's my first line. Got it. Okay, I'm good. I'm ready to go. And now what I'm thinking about is being completely present in that moment. I'm ready to go on stage. I'm going to take 3 deep breaths. And I'm going to look at, and there's some practical tips I can give you guys, but I'm going to take 3 deep breaths. And I'm going to think about the audience. I'm going to think about who's out there that needs to hear this message. Who's out there that's struggling that I have an answer for. And you create that person in your head, because you know they're out there. If 2,000 people are out there, you know there's people out there that desperately want to hear your message. And so you focus on them. And one of the things to help you begin to focus, because the main thing at this point, because you've already prepared, is the focus, is I'll take those 3 deep breaths, and I'll find a spot. And if there's no spot around, I look at my hand, but it's easier if you can find a spot on the wall or something, a nick or something on the wall, really tiny, and you stare at that. And when you stare at that with your eyes, and you let everything else kind of turn fuzzy around it, your eyes are focusing in on that one point, and all you're thinking about is being present in the moment and the audience that's out there that's going, the message that you're going to deliver. It's a weird thing, but it works because it calms you down. You're kind of hacking your brain, because usually what happens is when we're really nervous, our breath gets really short. Even if we're excited, our breath gets really short. So we're really excited to go on stage and give that message. And we're going, I'm so excited. I can't wait to go out there. And then you go out there and then you're going 1,000 miles an hour giving your speech. And the only thing we can do, because we have our heartbeat, we have our blood pressure, and we have all these things, but the one thing we can control is our breath. And so if we can hack our brain and take some deep breaths and focus on one little point on the wall, we trick our brain into going, I'm in a good place. I'm calm now. Now our heart's still racing, our blood pressure's still elevated, but we begin to now to focus our brain. And if we focus on ourselves, we've lost it. What we want to do is be able to focus on the audience. And in any acting school you go into or public speaking, if you focus on yourself, you become self-conscious. But if you focus on the other, in acting, it's focusing on the other actor. It's responding to the other actor. How are they responding? Oh, that was different than the night before. So I need to react differently because they said this line differently. So I need to naturally respond to what that is. And if I go out there and I'm responding to the audience the same way, it takes the pressure off of us because now we're serving the audience. Our focus is on them. Does that answer that question? Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you. So now we have 3 questions.
Okay.
Cal, I will answer your one. The presentation was great. Would David be willing to share the slide deck with us? Yes. All the speakers' interviews are being recorded, and you will be sent a link to the 11 hours of interviews in a few days once they have been edited. And part of that is David's slide deck. Candice, your question, can David tell us more about his workshop? David, why don't you take her away and describe your workshop?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll get into a little bit more details on what this will look like a little bit later too, as far as cost and all that. But it's a 4-hour workshop. And
did you say 4-part or 4-hour?
4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah, 4-hour workshop. I'm going to do it the morning of the 15th in Vancouver. We can arrange for other times as well. But for this, and I'll get some more details on that in a minute, but it'll be 4 hours in the morning, September 15th in the morning in Vancouver. And it's going to cover a few different parts. I've sort of touched on a lot of the highlights here. One of the first things we'll cover is how to tell yourself the story of that I'm excited, I'm not afraid, of what that looks like to you, a personal story. Then we're going to do some acting/speaking exercises. So some of it is the tongue twisters, some of it is the warm-up, some of it are the things that then you guys can take with you so that you can practice your speech and do those warm-ups first, because you can kind of get into a routine. If you go through, okay, I'm going to massage my shoulders, I'm going to roll my neck, I'm going to do these tongue twisters, I'm going to do with my lips and warm them up, and I'm going to massage my jaw and do all of these things that I do. If I do that every time before I really intensely practice my speech, my brain automatically goes, oh, must be speech time. And you get into that zone of really working on your speech. As you do that over and over again, the day you're supposed to speak, you do that same routine, your brain goes, oh, it's time to give a speech now. And so you've actually tricked your brain into saying, oh, A plus B equals C. I've done A, I've done B, and now I'm going to C. Here we go. I must give my speech. So we'll go through some of those as well. And then we're also going to go through a speech that you have. Now in the workshop, we're not going to get to everybody's full speech, but we're going to go through a speech and we're going to start working on how to break that down. What does that look like? What does this line mean? How do you want to deliver this? And we'll actually start playing around with some different things. A big part of that is storytelling, but lots of times with storytelling, it's easier to connect emotion with the story. So we'll show you how to do that. But also then what do you do when you just say, and so there's an error of professionalism, which you should have when you're speaking, which is one of the things that's different than acting, where you could crumple on the floor and bawl if the play calls for that. But when you're speaking, you don't want that to happen. But when you're saying those words, there's something inside of you that says, I really wish I could kind of crumple on the floor and beg and plead that people would take action on this issue. But you can't really do that. So how do you internalize the words? How do you meet the emotion? And then how can you deliver it without falling on the floor and crumpling? So those are some of the things that we'll cover in the workshop.
So why don't you just complete this little piece and give us the registration instructions and the price?
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and get.
You have to give us an irresistible offer now.
Oh, I'm irresistible, so that's okay.
But you're not for sale.
That is very true. Okay. I'll load this up here. Now that everything kind of restarted. Nope, we're here. Okay. So I provide keynotes, workshops, personal training, group training. Topics are vulnerability, speaking, communication, and sales. For you guys, what we're doing, for those of you who have listened to this webinar, if you're in the area, it's going to be in person, face-to-face in a group. If you're out of the area, email me anyway, because we're going to work something out. But if you're in the hour, it's a 4-hour group workshop. Generally, this is for organizations and companies, and it's a flat rate. What I've done is kind of reduce that rate to say, it's about between $250 and $300 per person. And I'm also going to throw in an hour of one-on-one coaching, which is a $200 value. So it's about a $500 value for a 4-hour workshop plus 1 hour of one-on-one coaching. And it's going to be for $299. Now, the reason why I'm doing this so inexpensively is because my guess is if you're listening to this webinar, there's something in you that says, I want to be a powerful speaker. And that driving force is not fame and glory. The driving force is, I have a message I want to share with the world. I want to make the world a better, kinder, more beautiful place. And so by doing that, then I want to make sure that everybody who wants to do that can afford to do that. So it's a $500 value. It's $299. That's 1 hour of personal coaching plus the 4-hour workshop. If you want additional hours, and I do have clients who come back to me that have said, hey, I'm working on a new speech. Can you work with me on it for an hour or two? So it's just kind of an as-needed basis. I have other clients that say, I want 10 lessons. Let's figure out a plan and let's move forward because I want to be a better communicator. I'm working on this speech. I'm doing some networking, and then we can work on that as well. But for that, for additional coaching, rather than the $200 an hour, it's only going to be $100 an hour. And so you guys will actually get a pretty good steal on that. All you have to do is email me, and my email's on the right there, david@justdon'tblink.com. There's a story behind Just Don't Blink, which is don't be afraid. Stare down your fears and be powerful. That's the short version of the story. david@justdon'tblink.com. What I want you to put in the subject line is Get Inspired Workshop. And then and then that way I know to look for it in the subject line because I have hundreds of emails. So david@justdon'tblink.com, Get Inspired Workshop, and then in the actual body of the email, your preferred contact information. If you want that to be email, obviously I can just reply to your email if that's one you want to use. If you want to get your phone number in there, whatever, that's fine too. Then I will confirm all of the details in the next 48 hours and get back to you on the morning of the September 15th and the location and all of that. And if you do that by midnight tonight, that's when this offer is going to expire. So everything for $299. Now, if you are out of the area, then email me, same thing, but just email me and say, I'm also out of the area, and we'll figure it out because I'm going to try and live stream it or something like that if there's enough interest, but we'll figure out what to do from there. But that's the offer I have. I want you guys to take this and kind of run with it and change the world. I would argue this is one of the most powerful things that you can do because you're being yourself and inspiring others to be more powerful. And if the whole thing on Get Inspired is to take action, we have to have an emotional connection with our content to take action. And we can't fake it. So I'm not going to teach you how to fake it and try and drum up the crowd and get everybody excited and fake it till you make it. It's how to genuinely connect with your material and your message so that you can genuinely connect with your audience. And that's what's going to create change.
David, do you have a slide that shows your email address? Because you said it's somewhere on the right of the screen, but it actually isn't.
Oh, it's not? Okay. It's underneath. Do you see the woman lying in the grass?
All I see is you.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay. I actually have the slide up, so I wonder why that's not working. Okay, hold on. Yeah, absolutely.
So go to share
I think I
screen.
wasn't like, yeah, let me share my screen again. Thinking I wasn't like picking my nose while I was talking or something.
Yeah, lucky you.
I know, right? I lucked out. Okay. All right, now you probably see my screen, so let me try that again. Thank you. All right, can you see it now?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, good. I've already kind of said it all, but you see it there. My services, the $299 value, $100 per hour after that first hour private coaching, and then the david@justdon'tblink.com. And then my number's on there as well. Text messages are good if you want to text me, but I would prefer on this to just email me so I can kind of keep everything in one spot.
Okay, so how are you going to handle this situation? There's 17 people attending this webinar.
Hello.
But there's actually nearly 200 people who have registered for it.
Okay.
And by the time the edits are complete, it will be likely this time next week before everybody has got a link to these interviews.
Okay.
So what about
that's
the 90% of the people who will get your interview but aren't online with you right now?
Right. Okay. Okay. So let's extend this offer then, and I'll just extend the offer to whenever everything is released. Then I'll extend it to like 48 hours after that, or 24 hours after that. Let's just say as soon as that offer and everybody gets the emails, you have 24 hours to respond.
All right. So just for simplicity's sake, can we extend the offer until 11:59 on the last day of August?
Absolutely. That sounds good.
9 p.m. Okay.
Yeah, 11:59 p.m. on the last day of August. That sounds good.
Wonderful. Now let me segue into a couple of questions. Can you go back into seeing you?
Absolutely.
David, what does one do if one has a frog in his voice? Thank you, Iqbal.
Good question. Take it out. I'm assuming you mean that happens like when you start to lose, right? You start to lose your voice, and you're like, you know what? It's perfectly normal to have a glass of water on stage, or even just off stage. And it happened to me too, where you're speaking and you go, excuse me, just a second, and go over and take a drink. It's totally fine. The audience is with you; they're rooting for you. It's the audience will be, okay, great. He's giving me this inspiring, wonderful, beautiful message, and now he has to take a quick drink. Totally fine. It's not like you're an opera singer or in the middle of a song you have to go take a drink of water. It's a heightened, prepared, inspiring conversation with an audience. But just like if you're talking to somebody and you're like, oh, excuse me, just a sec. And I've had this happen where you get emotional, or a speaker gets emotional, because sometimes when I'm coaching this, people are like, oh my gosh, or what if I kind of start like losing it? What if I start like crying on stage? Totally fine. Just be like, excuse me, just a second. This kind of caught me off guard. Let me take a drink. Okay, as we were. And then you just keep going again. Totally fine.
Okay. C. Smith asks, I'm not passionate about every item I speak about at work. How do I engage others while remaining authentic?
That's a great question. And that you almost have to trick your brain a little bit. Get to that 100 times, and find something in there that triggers your brain to go, okay, here's what I'm doing. I am serving somebody else. Now, maybe I'm not really connected to this. I used to sell software for a technology company. I won't go into the details of what the company was, but I had no personal vested heartfelt interest. I got a good paycheck. That was my heartfelt interest. And usually that's not the way you want to present when you're giving presentations. But what I did was kind of dig down a little bit and go, okay, well, wait a second. This may not be really important to me, and I'm at work, and this is what I have to do. And given a choice, I would present on other subjects, but this is really important to them. This is information that they need to make their lives easier, to make their jobs easier, to help them become more successful in business or whatever it might be, so that when they leave, they go, oh, great, I'm so glad that was worth it. And so whether you're talking to your team to make their jobs easier, which can make your job easier, or you're in sales or anything like that, find the connection point of why it's important to them. And it's a little bit of a jump, but if you get to that point where you really think about that, then you go, oh, wait a second, I'm serving the audience. So I can remain authentic because I may not be passionate about the subject, but I'm passionate about you and making your life easier, because that can cause a ripple effect and make the world maybe a kinder place. Does that help?
Thank you. Candace asks, $100 per hour for one-on-one?
Correct. If you take up on this offer, then the first hour is $100 per hour.
And
no, sorry. The first one is part of the workshop, and then after that, it's $100 an hour. Yes.
Then part B of her question, and where will the workshop be in Vancouver?
Good question. If all 200 people sign up, then I need a bigger venue. But right now we're looking at a place either downtown or just outside of downtown, kind of maybe the Broadway area. So part of it's going to depend on how many people are going to show up, because I've got some great venues in mind that will house like 15 people, but we'll have to change venues if we need something that's bigger. So I'll let you know as soon as I know the number of attendees. I can let you know within 24 hours what that's going to be.
Question from Cal. Can you type your email address into the chat? I just tried it, but it says it is an invalid address.
Oh yeah, can I do that? I've never done this before. David,
go to chat.
Just.com. Helps if I type it right.
Who is David at JJUST?
Oh, whoops, sorry. I had 2 J's in there. Hold on.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. The next question is from Lawrence. Do you recommend practicing with your wife as a test audience? If she falls asleep, does that mean I have a problem?
Wow. I might have to know a little bit more about you and your wife's relationship. But interesting. If you give this presentation to people that really know you, you may get an honest response. You also may get a false response because they know you really well. So maybe they're like, oh, I've heard this before. I already know all your mannerisms. This doesn't excite me anymore. You talk about it endlessly. Or they're going to be like, oh, that was great, honey. Yay. And so I have a group of people. You practice it in front of your wife. That's great. But if she falls asleep, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a problem. I would find somebody that you're close to, but that can be honest with you and present it in front of them, and then have them give you feedback. So sometimes we're a little bit too close to the people we're presenting to, and it actually might taint our response. Or if you have somebody that maybe isn't your best friend, but somebody that you work with, or somebody you kind of look up to, like a mentor, or maybe even another speaker, and then just say, hey, what do you think of this? And then present it, then they can give you that feedback. And I would say, give it for your wife and other family members, that's great, but don't just do that, because you're going to want a little bit of a larger sample size.
So let me ask you a related question. Can you give an assessment of the power of people practicing in front of a video camera and listening and viewing the replays?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. And I will do an audio so that I can listen to it sometimes. If I'm out and about, I'll just put in my headphones, and instead of listening to music, I'm listening to myself. But then also, yes, to video it. The video to stage, sometimes there's a little bit of a translation there, because on video, if I'm like this and I make a big gesture, it goes off screen. It looks ridiculous. But when you're on stage and there's 2,000 people, a big gesture, obviously, you're going to want to have, so that the lovely person in the back row can still see what you're doing. But absolutely, because now you can keep track of, am I saying am I saying like? I say so a lot. So I start all these sentences with so. am I looking around? Am I staring at one spot all the time every time I practice in my living room? Or am I imagining there's an audience and I'm making eye contact with different people? Vocal variety. Sometimes people think, oh, I got great vocal variety. And then they listen to them and they're like, oh, I have no vocal variety at all. And so sometimes it's that stretching of our voice that we feel, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm a cartoon. When really, we're actually now sounding normal. So video is a good idea. Video and audio both.
Great. Now there's no further chat comments and there's no further Q&A. So would you like the pleasure of making a few final comments?
Yeah, and really, out of everything that you're going to learn about your life, whether it's me or somebody else, the ability to connect with yourself and connect with others is of vital importance, because we can Google and read anything we want at any time now. But we're going to do business with people that we connect with, and we're going to be inspired by people that we connect with. And we're going to respond to people who are honest and vulnerable, because that also presents power. So it's not honest and vulnerable and going, oh, I'm nothing. It's saying, no, I have a message to share because I care about you and I care about the planet and I want to make a difference. And if we have that posture moving forward, these skills just help that. If you already have that, all we're doing is translating some of that passion, putting a little bit of practical application to it, and then making you that notch of a little bit better, to go from good, to go from great, to go from like horrible to good, and then to go from good to great. We feel like it's this much, but it's actually just as much work as you went from horrible to good. You have to put in twice as much effort now to get to great. It's that little edge that we all need. And so whatever you're going to do, think about that edge of what can I do from being good to great. And I had something else in there and I forgot what it was, but if it comes back to me, I'll bring it up.
Lovely. David, on behalf of us all on the How to Achieve Reach and Influence 2-day webinar, I thank you. You've shared with us some great thoughts, some original thoughts, some thoughts I've never heard before. And I congratulate you on everything that you're doing, changing lives, making a difference. Way to go, guy.
All right, thanks. And right back at you. Thanks so much, Roger.